It's really a pleasure being here. The reception in the last couple of years, well, there are a lot of pioneers, but the reception in the last couple of years that we've had from all of you has been totally heartwarming. I brought Paciano 6 years ago to Chicago. We did 10 days of events, and there were about 20 people that knew us. It's really changed. It just is amazing. I want to thank all my fellow presenters. I want to thank Steve Olson particularly, and some great friends here in the audience. And I want to thank Paciano Cruz and Alaska for coming from San Luis Del Rio. Steve Olson is an incredible speaker publicly. I'm kind of shy to speak publicly, so I'm going to read you some things that I've written over the last 10 or 15 years. There's a dicho. There are many dichos in Mexico. A dicho is a phrase. Before the Spanish conquest, it was called a jade. A jade is jade, and it meant a jade meant great saying. So there's a saying: you don't find mezcal, mezcal finds you. The word mezcal comes from the pre-Hispanic Nahuatl word met, which meant maguey, and mezcal meant roast agave. Today, the commonly used word for agave in Mexico is maguey. Other than in tequila. When you go to tequila and you point at the plant and you go, they say mezcal. So the plant is called mezcal in the tequila region. I've been working on this project since 1986. The ideas and my interest in mezcal evolved on a trip to Mexico to experience pulque, the ancient fermented beverage, which was used ritually, and it comes from the giant maguey salmiana. The otherworldly experience produced by pulque was of fundamental importance to the religious rituals and the cultures of Zapotec, Mixtec, Toltec, Aztec in pre-Columbian Mexico. The maguey, there we go. Okay, all right.
Hey, we're agave geeks, not techno geeks, you know? Come on, give us a break. We're doing our best.
What we're looking at here are some images that have to do with the spirituality and the spiritual use of mezcal, which has replaced the ancient tradition of consuming pulque. In a fiesta, they don't drink cocktails normally. Don't go home at 5 o'clock after work and have a drink. They wait until a fiesta. A wedding is 8 days, a funeral is 9 days, a baptism is 3 days, and at that time, you're encouraged to drink as much as you possibly can to get closer to the gods, okay? And there's always a judge, and the judge is responsible for making sure that everyone gets their fair share of mezcal nowadays. I would love to have a little copita with a little mezcal in it. Is it possible?
Not yet. We have to wait, I'm sorry.
Phil's right there.
Phil's right here, never mind. No words in the room, we got copitas.
Hey Ron, will a flask do?
No.
I got my flask.
Is Tupelo okay?
That'll work just fine.
All right, everybody break it out.
Thank you.
Tupelo.
Okay, so
Break them out.
the traditional use of pulque to get you closer to the gods was replaced later by the use of mezcal. So mezcal counts in all rituals. It's very important, and you'll see some uses of mezcal right there. But the very first thing that happens at any fiesta is that a judge is appointed, a juez, and the judge is responsible for serving everybody. So, and the very first thing the judge does is pours a cross on the floor,
You don't do
which is a salute to Mother Earth and our ancestors. So that being done, we can now begin to drink, okay? So, Stigi Beu,
They're not drinking.
you're not drinking yet.
You have to wait.
You're not drinking, but I'm the judge, so I get to start. Stigi Beu? Stigi Beu? Stigi Beu? That, by the way, means to your health, to the health of your friends, and the life of the planet. It's Zapotec, it's the Pasiano's first language. So here we go. Okay, that's done. Whether or not the indigenous people invented their own distillation process is a whole other subject, which is really interesting. We continue to participate in seminars with Mexican archaeologists and anthropologists, but it's a whole other subject, so we won't talk about that now. But the ancient Mexican gods and goddesses before the conquest, the Sansón Totoxtin, the 400 rabbits, were responsible for the infinite senses of intoxication and ecstasy. So the touch of a lover, the smell of a flower, the aha of an idea, all of those things were covered by these infinite gods and goddesses. The supreme god was known as Ometeotli, 2 rabbit, and there is no 1 rabbit. They're very humble. So these figures of intoxication and transformation relate to the Greek god Hermes, also known as the trickster. Hermes has a close connection with walled gardens. In fact, all that is enclosed with or by intent. Think about the still. Hermes guides the establishment of boundary places, particularly those areas set aside for inward work, transformation. A nun's cloister, a meditation room, a deep well, and each for a god, lover's room, the philosopher's study, the alchemist's vessel are all hermetic containers. We could say that in the ancient walled garden, as in the alchemical vessel, new metals get formed as the old ones melt. Enjoying ritual space is an intimate and an imaginative act and transformational act. One rarely sees mention of the most important early inventions, distillation, the great alchemical art of transformation, used in the search to understand the essence of existence. Aside from alchemy being the basis of modern science and industry, the transformation of human beings brought on by the imbibing of distilled spirits is of great interest to me. Okay, so I just had a sip. I'm in another place, okay? Hopefully, every man and every woman on this planet is on the road from the law to the legends. The legends stand for the moist, the swampish, the wild and untamed. The legends are watery when compared to the dryness of the law. A work of art is successful to me if it transforms the viewer, the experiencer. The mezcal that we're involved in is a living, breathing, transformational art. These mezcals tap into the mythical past, and they retain the ancient mysteries. They embrace the notion of intoxication from the maguey as a gift from the gods. They are 100% organic, unblended, made the 400-year-old handcrafted way from the heart of the maguey and the soul of the village. Some spirits have a depressive quality, some a stimulating quality. I've noticed the qualitative difference in the buzz you get from this mezcal. That's why I had to bring it out for me and my friends. I've had some mezcals that have sent me into a different state after just one mezcalito. And there seems to be little evidence to explain why this would be so. Maybe it's karma. As we pass through the arid valley floor, I remember our small producer of Tobala, the mezcal made from the wild agave, with the same name. Prior to harvesting, he makes offerings to ancient deities, asking for permission and blessings to harvest and distill. I recall our maker from Santa Catarina, Minas, Florencio Carlos, saying that mezcal gets made by the will of God and the maguey, as if the maguey itself were a spiritual entity. All the village producers seem to have that combination of reverence and love for the plant, for the drink. Perhaps that's what we feel. Maybe when the human will is exerted, when the production becomes overly manipulated, there's little room left for the will of God and the maguey. In Ayurveda, the ancient yogic science, every plant has its own distinct consciousness. When you consume the plant, you assume that consciousness. Talking about the Oaxacan maguey, we can infer about its consciousness. What we can infer is that the maguey asks for little. It barely needs water. It grows in soil that is virtually unusable for any other purpose. It requires little care and grows in what would be extreme conditions for most crops. I think that makes you feel strong, that it imparts a certain resiliency due to its life as a survivor. There's a high reverence for this magical liquid and its ceremonial, social, and medicinal uses among the villagers. There's obvious pride regarding the mezcal's power. There's also great disdain for the cheap, diluted, chemically altered liquids sold commercially. The way mezcal affects your palate and the way it warms your chest, throat, and mouth are quite different from any other spirit. And Del Maguey transcend all others. So